Linear polymer of what? Of glucose. Polymer of glucose. And it is actually soluble. It is the soluble portion of what? Of starch. The soluble portion of what? Of starch is what? Is amylose. Amylopectin is what? Is insoluble, and it is branch polymer. Sorry, branch polymer of glucose. Is the branch polymer of what? Of glucose. That's what amylopectin is. Branch polymer of what? Of glucose. That's what amylopectin is, and it contains alpha 1 4 glycosidic bond and also what? Alpha 1 6 glycosidic bond. But in the case of amylose, which is the straight polymer of what? Of glucose, it contains just simply alpha 1 4 glycosidic bond. Can you see that? So polysaccharide can be what? Can be branch and also what? Unbranch. Polysaccharide that contain the same, let me tell you, say single monosaccharides all through. They are referred to as what? Homoglycan, or you simply say homopolysaccharide. Where polysaccharide that contain just that contain many monosaccharides. For example, it contains glucose, contains fructose, or hydrolysis, or simply let me just say I-glycone. I-glycone are naturally what? Glycoside. They are non-carbohydrate portion of glycoside. Check it out. So polysaccharide can actually contain glycoside, and that case I'm going to explain it in a separate video. That's the case of heteropolysaccharide, which can actually be a mixture of monosaccharides. Heterosaccharide can be a mixture of what? Of monosaccharide, or simply let me just say their derivatives, or it can contain non-carbohydrate molecule attached to it. For example, the case of what? Of mucopolysaccharides. All this thing I'm going to explain it in a separate video, but in this video I want you to get two important facts. Two facts. The first fact, I'm going to summarize this out now so that you guys can have a better understanding of what polysaccharide is. Now let's just go. So in this case, polysaccharide is divided into two, right? It's of two types. We have homopolysaccharide. Homopolysaccharide and also what? The case of what? Of heteropolysaccharide. So that's two cases that we have. Now, one thing is that depending on the nature, or simply let me say the structure of what? Of homopolysaccharide, you can have branch and also what? Unbranch, which is always referred to as linear. You can have what? Branch form of homopolysaccharide and linear form of what? Of homopolysaccharide. The same thing, you can have branch form of what? Of heteropolysaccharide and also what? Linear form of what? Of heteropolysaccharide. Now, an example of homopolysaccharide examples, we have what? The case of starch, right? We have glycogen, we have inulin. Yes, inulin is part of it. Then we have chitin. Chitin is also part of it. They are polymers of what? Of homopolysaccharide. They are actually homopolysaccharide. They contain single glucose all through. We have the case of dextrin. We have the case of what? Of dextran, right? Dextran. We have the case of dextrin. We have dextran. We have inulin. But one thing I want you to understand as far as inulin is concerned, inulin is simply the polymers of what? A polymers of fructose. Polymers of fructose. That's what inulin is. Inulin, polymers of fructose. And one thing is that it is mostly referred to as fructosan. Fructosan. That is inulin. That's inulin. Is mostly referred to as fructosan because it contains the polymers of what? A polymers of what? Of fructose, and it is found in what? In all these garlic, onion, something like that. You understand? So it's found that's just actually where inulin is found. Check it out. So that's just it, and it is soluble. That's another thing that happened there. It is soluble because of it has low molecular weight. That's inulin, but I think I'm going to make a separate video for this inulin so that you guys can actually get it very well, because it has a lot of functions. For example, it functions in our GMR as well. GMR, that is glomerular filtration rate actually. So that's that's GMR, or let me simply say GFR rather. GFR, that is glomerular filtration rate. So it actually helps in that one as well. So we have glycogen, inulin, we have chitin, we have at the same time in plant, we have cellulose. Right? Cellulose is actually a type of polysaccharide. So its function what in plant as actually what a it is basically found in the structure of what of plants. That is cellulose. It's actually the one that contributes to the rigidity of the cell wall in most plants. Check it down. So that's actually the another one. So we have the case of what of chitin, and in the case of chitin, so one thing about chitin is that chitin actually contain a nitrogen group. Check it out. That is an amine group. That's one thing about chitin. It's contain amine group. You understand that? So that's just it. One thing about chitin. It's contain amine group. So I don't think maybe we should actually classify it as homopolysaccharide. But the reason I'm classifying it as homopolysaccharide is because it contains a single sugar or true. So that's just it. So that's the case of homopolysaccharide. Now the second case is the case of heteropolysaccharide. Heteropolysaccharide are mostly referred to as heteroglycans. They are mostly referred to as heteroglycans, and I'm going to explain the reason why. The reason why is that they contain mixture of monosaccharide and their derivative, or monosaccharide or non-carbohydrates. They contain non-carbohydrate as well, right? So that's one thing about heteropolysaccharide. But I'm going to make a separate video on it because we have a long way to go. Because I have to explain mucopolysaccharide as well. Mucopolysaccharide, and what mucopolysaccharide actually is that it's actually like it is heteroglycans that are made up of repeating units of sugar derivatives. For example, we have different type of sugar derivative. I'm going to make it in a separate video as well. We have the case of amino sugars, we have uronic sugars, we have different, you understand? So that's actually what mucopolysaccharide is. They are complex form of monosaccharides, and they are the complex form of the mixture of monosaccharide and so what their derivatives. But one thing is that they are mostly referred as heteroglycan, and we have examples. Let me give you the examples of heteropolysaccharide that you can have. We have examples as well. We have examples. So we have the case of hyaluronic acid. We have the case of hyaluronic acid. That's hyaluronic acid. We have the case of hyaluronic acid. Then we have the case of creatine sulfate. We have the case of chondroitin sulfate. We have the case of creatine sulfate as well. Damatane sulfate. All is there. Those kind of names, you know. We have damatane sulfate, right? We have the case of keratine sulfate as well. We have the case of heparin. Yes, heparin is part. We have the case of heparin. We have many of it, and most importantly, agar. Exactly, agar, and also pectins as well, and pectins. So that's actually types of heteropolysaccharide that we have. But I'm going to explain those ones in a separate video. So now, summary points. Polysaccharide simply means what? Polymers of monosaccharides. That is polymers of sugar. That is what they mean. Polymer, that is complex form of sugar. That's what they mean. They are divided into what? Homopolysaccharide and also what? Heteropolysaccharide. Homopolysaccharide is simply a repeating unit of a single sugar residue. A single, similar. That is the sugar residue. Whenever you hydrolyze homopolysaccharide, you are going to be having single sugar residue all through. For example, in the case of inulin, which is fructosan, it contains just only fructose. In the case of starch, it contains just only what? Glucose. That is the case of homopolysaccharide. Now, the case of heteropolysaccharide, it contains monosaccharide and their non-carbohydrates, or simply let me just say their derivative. You understand? It contains monosaccharide and also their derivatives. So mixture of monosaccharide and their derivative is what is classed as hetero. From the word hetero, it's like it doesn't, like, the sugar units are not similar. You understand? That's just hetero. So it's also a complex form of the mixture of monosaccharide and also what its derivative. So you have the case of hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, we have damatane, we have the keratine, we have agar and pectin. Right? So one thing that I want you guys to understand is that whenever you're talking about keratine, we are talking about damatane, we are talking about chondroitin sulfate, they contain nitrogen. they have an imine group. That's one thing about them. The heparin, dermatan, keratan, they have imine group. So in the case of this one, chondroitin sulfate as well, it contain what is it called? Amine group. So it contain amine group. So hyaluronic acid is different from what is derived from the derivative of what of monosaccharide, which is classed as uronic acid. That's where the hyaluronic acid is gotten from. So that's just it. So that's just about this video. So I'm going to explain this more better, including their structure, in a separate video. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Thanks for watching.